Okay, so our next session includes one of the, I think the industry's, the backbone, the CXOs and the CTOs, who are the ones who are really driving the technology and driving it within their institutions, and of course contributing to the ecosystem as well for the country. So before I start, if you can just have a quick round of brief introductions, so then everyone knows who you all are. So Imran, just quickly, we start with you, and then we just go down.
Yeah, thank you, Najib. So my name is Imran Khan, and I've basically been involved in the tech side behind financial services for almost a decade now. I set up the first cloud computing company in Pakistan back in 2010 called RapidCompute, which is still going long and strong, and it plays host to a lot of the banks, fintechs, EMIs. We've had a long, thriving relationship with the state bank as well in trying to create local standards and local infrastructure for banks and fintechs. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing with most of the people in this room over the last decade, and it's pretty exciting to see that where things have come now, especially with the new digital banking licenses and things like that. I fully feel that now the role of CXOs, CTOs, and also infrastructure providers like Rapid is just going to keep growing more and more.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Zohair, and I look after innovation at UBL. I'm a traditional banker. So for 15 years of my life, I've done M&A, corporate banking, retail, banker across Africa, Middle East. And then I got baptized into innovation and digital banking and transformation, right? So UBL pulled me back after I ran a Islamic digital bank based out of Abu Dhabi. And this is a big market, and UBL said, it's time to come to play with the big boys. So this is a huge market, very excited to create experiences and to nurture the talent that's available in Pakistan.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Rizwan Qazi. 26 years of banking and financial services experience. Lived and worked in 8 different countries around the globe, starting with the US, the North Americas, then Central Eastern Europe, then Middle East. Born in Libya, but obviously a Pakistani. But कहते हैं ना दिल तो पाकिस्तानी है फिर भी you can live wherever you are. So always been interested to know what this beautiful country has to offer in terms of payments and digital and innovation. I beg to differ that CXO and CTOs are the only ones responsible for digital transformation. I think Shahzad Dada put it together this morning. The whole organization has to be digitally brainwashed if you want to really make a difference. So very pleased to be here and looking forward to sharing the stage, and I'm excited to share the stage with Zohair, who I've known for quite a few years. So I'm currently based in Dubai. I look after the growth initiatives of Mercury Payments, which is a very similar network of payment products like PayPak is in Pakistan. So we cater to the mass markets in the UAE, like Suhail Jawad Sahab was mentioning, the blue collars and the payroll processing companies and the customers, and trying to evolve it into a more digital nature of business to facilitate onboarding, helping the banks and the issuers become more nimble and grow revenues. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Omar Khalid. My background has been telecoms and real estate. I've never been a banker, but now I've ended up running a state bank licensed credit bureau. What we do is we collect data from all financial institutions in Pakistan. We've got data, got the borrowing data. We've got data for 21 million borrowers in Pakistan. Based on this data, we provide services to the financial institutions, to the NBFCs, to commercial banks, to microfinance providers, to everybody in Pakistan. And as everybody was saying that data is the new oil, so we basically are in the process of mining this new oil and using it for the benefit of others.
Great. Zohair, we'll start with you. Since you look after innovation, at UBL, and we've had some, a discussion on that earlier as well. So my question is that, every large financial institution, generally speaking, it goes through 3 stages of innovation. So you have, what you have, and you convert that to digital, and then you, of course, innovate some, new products. And then they hit a dead wall that, okay, now where do we go from here? Yeah. So how is UBL addressing that? And, since you are involved in this and in your past life also, so if you want to just give us your insights into this, please.
Sure. So I think you start with, in my opinion, there are about 5 things, right? The very first one, fundamental, you've got to have clarity of purpose and vision throughout the organization. If from top to bottom, everybody's aligned with what you want to do, it will get done. So at UBL, we know we want to be a digitally enabled organization. We want to curate customer experiences, and that is our product, right? The second thing is you've got to have culture. Culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And it's very, very true. So the culture at UBL is this innovative challenger spirit that gnaws at you every single day and allows teams to collaborate and work together. So everything that we do is innovative. It's funded by all, supported by all. The third thing is technology. Technology has to be closely coupled up with business decisions. So our business leaders work very, very closely with technology leaders. Technology decisions are not taken in isolation. So it's actually businesses running technology functions, right? Irfan Saab mentioned this about Mashreq, and I'm an ex-Mashreq person. So we are running those agile squads across the organization. It's subject matter experts coming together to create and collaborate for a single goal. The fourth thing, and I think that's a competitive advantage, has been a design lab, and Shahzad has spoken about this morning. And it is that lab that keeps guiding us. Whenever we sway with a conventional banking, traditionalist mindset, conservatism sort of tries to bring us down, this lab and its people basically say, focus on the North Star. The mantra is very simple for the lab. The lab says we do not create products. We create customer experiences, and customer experience is our product. So it's basically a loop, starts the innovation loop, as we call it. It starts with research, data, ideation, prototyping, and then you bring back, you commercialize, and then you retrospect, and then you get all the data back in. And it's a loop all over again. And that's along with the organization. And the last thing is, and I bet this is the most important thing, and this is not a Gayan, right? I've heard it, and everybody would hear this across. Digital transformation is gradual. It's a journey. You're never going to end it. You have to keep working towards it. You could do a rip and you rip out and put something in. But at UBL, we learned that you can't freeze creativity, innovation, and business features for 6 months, 8 months. It has to be an on-the-job sort of a thing. So that is what we have done quite credibly. So these are the 5 sort of our playbook.
And just relating to that, we've discussed about digital journey and all that. So, Rizwan, if I may ask you, so a lot of emphasis has been given on digital journeys and, of course, customer experience. Now, as we progress more towards the digital side, especially in the banking side, what, according to you, will happen with the face-to-face interface, with the customer, because that is still key and that still drives the primary business, right? So how do you see that happening?
So I'll relate to that with 2 sort of storylines for you. So can we purely go digital or physical? I think Shahzad put it perfectly. Phygital is the new way of doing business, right? But I want to relate it to the customers we are trying to address. I think we are still thinking about ourselves, our generation that needs that human interaction to do our banking services. Now, I have a 12-year-old son, and he corrected me the other day that I'm not part of Generation Z, I'm an alpha. And I said, what is an alpha? He said, alphas are born out of, in the year of 2010 and thereafter. Now, if you look at the people born in 2010 and afterwards, and they are going to be the largest customer base over the next 10 years. The estimate is they're going to be about 2.4 billion of them globally. They grew up in the digital zone and with the iPads in their hands. Parents would distract their kids if they're having a tantrum over dinner by just handing over their iPhones or their Android devices to them so they can eat in peace. Do you really think our 12-year-olds today have the patience to go interact with banks in a brick and mortar situation? No. What are they doing with their Apple devices or their labs today? There's a reason Apple has a Genius Lab. So if you need something fixed, you come for a consultation. I'll help you with your problem and you walk away. I think the branches of the future, from a physical standpoint, like you asked, we have to look at the assisted model of supporting the customers in their digital adoption. No matter how much adoption or innovation we do in digital space, the adoption remains a challenge. Even in the mature markets in the Middle East, I've got some of my Middle Eastern friends here. If you ask them what the digital app or their own banking mobile app penetration rate is, it is still less than 50%. So 50% of the customers are still relying on their other non-banking channels. Now, what Mashreq in the UAE has done fantastically is their ATMs are now fully automated with the video agent. So you're still having that human interaction, but through a digital channel or a form factor. You're not actually speaking to the customer. And now it's easier, because if I'm upset with the customer service at the branch, guess what? The other person can switch me off. If I'm face-to-face with you, I don't want to have that discussion with you. So I think it really depends. Najib, to your question, I think the response to that is that you have to have an assisted model. I wouldn't say it's a physical per se. You can do it cheaper by not having your brick and mortar expensive real estate, that it increases your cost structure, but make sure that you have mapped your processes from your physical environment into the digital so it replicates it. Most often what I've seen along the journey and look, my digital transformation started in 2006 when we were finally over the fact that Y2K has happened and the computers are still alive and we are alive. That's what our digital transformation started with loans on phones, etc. So I think what you need to look at is a balance. But I think assisted sort of way of helping people is probably better than just saying, we're going to be phygital.
Thank you for that. And talking of digital transformation, Imran, in your not too long ago, life, in fact, you're one of the pioneers, I think, for the cloud services in the country with Raptr. Now, when we talk about cloud, of course, I mean, it has undeniable benefits, no doubt about that, in terms of agility, scalability, flexibility. But still, we see that the focus is still on-premise as compared to off-premise. So how do you see that, and how do you see that changing, especially now as things are progressing a little faster pace?
Sure, thank you. So to answer the first part of the question. So traditionally, there's been more of a focus on-prem rather than off-prem or cloud-based services. And since I've been seeing this journey from the very start, that's mostly because of lack of knowledge. So I remember when we used to start selling cloud services back in early 2010, 2011, 2012, we used to refer to our meetings as Cloud 101 meetings, where I'd have to take my jacket off, hold a whiteboard marker, and go, this is what a cloud is, and it's not a Dropbox, it's not a Google Drive, and this is how it works. Thankfully, we're not there now. A lot of people are very aware of how it's done. So ADIB, in a very large part, and I mean no offense to anybody in the audience today, I can safely bet that 50% of the financial institutions even today in Pakistan are not really aware of how to utilize cloud. I still have a lot of meetings with a lot of fintechs, PSP, PSOs, banks, CTOs, CXOs, and they're still quite confused as to how they can get on that journey. So on-prem remains because it's convenient for now. But coming to the second part of your question, that won't stay the case for long at all. Why is that? When you talk about digitization or digital first or phygital or however you put it, one of the key components of that approach to customers is agility. How fast can you roll out a service? First of all, how fast can you think up a service to fill a gap? Then how fast can you roll out a service? How fast can you close the feedback loop that, okay, this isn't working this way, we need to improve the service or the performance or the response times. We're talking about Gen Alpha right now. Now State Bank has reduced the digital onboarding age to 14. You can have a Guardian CNIC and get digitally onboarded. So when you talk about Gen Alpha, I don't know if you know the stats, they take 0.3 seconds to make a decision on the screen. So if you look at stats on Instagram, Snapchat, stories, even digital, how they perceive digital services, it's less than half a second for them to make that call on whether a service is good or bad. When you start designing your services around that kind of a philosophy, doing the standard brick and mortar hardware ordering, begging the IT department in the bank to give you some services on the server, and trying to prototype, it just doesn't work that way. So what we're seeing now is a lot of, so fintechs, obviously, because they've been smaller and leaner, have led that movement in Pakistan, but now it's coming up to the big banks as well, where the entire approach is being built in a very cloud native way, where how can we take a service to market in the shortest span of time, in the most cost effective manner, so that even if it doesn't work the first time around, the cost to turn it around and ship out a second iteration or a third iteration or a fourth iteration is marginalized as compared to doing the same thing on fixed hardware, right? Because it's a pay as you grow as you scale kind of a model. So what we're seeing right now, and I'm working with a couple of the DRB applicants as well and a few fintechs as well right now. I haven't let go of that part of my life. And what we're seeing is from the get-go, their approach to whatever they're building is cloud native, meaning it's agile. How can we get this done? And how can we give our customer the fastest response time, the best experience with the lowest amount of issues that are possible? अगर आप आज भी देखें यूबीएल हो गया, मिज़ान हो गया, 2-3 और बड़े अच्छे बैंक हैं जिन्होंने बहुत पहले डिजिटल फर्स्ट पॉलिसी की तरफ गए थे, you will see that their customer experience on their apps is a lot more different than a lot of the other ones who are doing it the traditional way. Similarly, मैं नाम नहीं लेना चाह रहा, लेकिन 2-3 digital wallets of fintechs हैं, they're extremely popular on social media because 2-4 feature sets हैं, work really well, work really fast. All of them are cloud native. A lot of them are Rapid customers. A lot of them, I brought them on board. A lot of them are on Amazon and other places. So I think just by the nature of the beast, which is to give that kind of a customer experience, doing things the conventional way, on-prem, buying servers, figuring out how to do things, just doesn't work. And cloud is not just on-prem versus cloud. Cloud is also the technologies that exist on the cloud that allow you to create those services. Everything from AI to machine learning to the UI UX features built into databases to everything. And I think that's where we're going right now. There's no way to avoid it.
So this brings me to you, Omar Saab. You're obviously one of the critical, parts of the ecosystem, and we were just talking about the agility and speed of decision making. And we have seen, and I think we still see to some extent, that the traditional banks, leaned a lot on the credit bureau, for a credit underwriting process. And I think even now it may still take, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 weeks to maybe get a credit card or a personal loan, or longer maybe. But obviously now, as the ecosystem is developing and as more and more fintechs and others are transforming to the digital lending landscape. So obviously your play in it becomes extremely, I think, critical, especially on the speed part. And earlier we were discussing with the Sohail Saab also from the central bank that other aspects of the scoring model has to be looked into as well. Like behavioral analysis is also being considered. And the current situation, if we look at it, I mean, we still see hardly, I think, of the combined lending portfolio in the country of all the banks, the consumer part is still about $1 trillion as compared to 6 trillion for corporate and private business and so on and so forth. So how do you, will you be addressing or helping banks to not only speed up on the credit decisioning part, but how are you engaging with them in terms of giving them new avenues to consider? So if you can please give us some insights.
I'll start that we will not, but we are doing a lot of things. Okay. And not just the commercial banks, but the microfinance industry, the NBFCs and the fintechs which are coming in. We are providing them with a lot of services and a lot of models through which they can decrease their processing time, they can increase their attach, they can improve their credit writing processes. To start with, they use our conventional credit information report as part of their credit underwriting to take a decision or do a risk evaluation of a customer. But then over a period of time, as this is what the commercial banks do. But with microfinance institutions and banks and the new fintechs coming in, which already were relying on the digital services, we had to innovate our product lines based on the database that we have. We've got a database of around 22 million borrowers in Pakistan, around 1.8 to 2 billion transactions. On an average, we've got a database on every borrower. We've got a 7-year average credit history available for each client. So based on this, we have developed 5 or 6 credit scoring models. It is based. One model is based on the commercial banking data. Another is based on microfinancing banking data, and a model which is based on combined data of microfinance and commercial banks. Then, because of a lot of nano lending that has happened in the market, around 3 to 4 million nano lenders are there. Based on the nano lending data, which is of lesser tenure, lower ticket size, there's a nano lending scoring model available also. And finally, to the new to bank customers, we talked about demographic and segment-based scoring models. That also we have available, which is based on age, behavior, the demographics, and the location. So these are for the new to banks. A lot of institutions, especially the new fintechs coming in, they are using these scoring models, incorporating them into their systems, and decreasing the turnaround times. Especially these nano lenders, their decisioning is instant based on these credit scoring models, which we are providing to them. Another thing that we are providing to commercial banks and to the institutions are the analytics that we do on our data. So if there is an expansion in a market, we have a lot of data, what kind of a behavior is there, what kind of customers are there, what kind of defaults are there. So based on that, informed decisions can be taken by the institutions based on the analytics that we provide. And finally, the last thing that we are doing is a lot of collaboration with telcos, with commercial banks, because they have a lot of other data. The deposit-based data is available. On telco side, the user behaviors are available. So there's a lot of collaboration being done with them, and we are developing models based on telco data, based on utilities data, based on the deposit-based data, which is available with the banks.
Thank you. How are we doing on? Okay, so let me just pivot back to you, Zohair. Mr. Naeem Zamindar earlier addressed, and talked about customer well-being. Now, in your, innovation lab and your design and thinking, can you just give us a bit insights about design and thinking, and how is that translating to, customer well-being in terms of, looking at from customer perspective, so if you can just give us an insight into that, please.
Very simply and very easily put, design thinking is nothing except the philosophy that the customer experience is what you need to curate. And it's not just the end product, but it's a continuation and an evolution of how do you start, how do you conceptualize, how do you ideate, what experiences and how do you judge every single thing as part of that journey. It's not just good PR or good customer service, it's everything. It's the insights that you need to develop, the data that you need to garner. How do you use that data to immediately evolve and pivot to what the customer wants? It's the agility that comes in. And it should not start with product first or Excel sheet financial model first, but it should start with user experience and what is the use case. Why do you need to do this? How might we build this? How might the customer do this? And that's how you sort of start connecting the dots, right? So from what all the peer participants have been saying, how do you connect data? You want to be customer-centric, but you've got to be a data-hungry, data-driven organization. But the problem that most people have is you start from the top of the pyramid of the hierarchy of data sciences, right? You start with AI, machine learning, put the tools in, the fancy tools in. Nobody knows how to use them. So collaborate, partner with telcos, with retailers, with e-commerce, with anyone who is part and parcel of your customer's life cycle. Okay? And once you start doing that, you graduate from being transactional to relational. It's the relationship that you've got to curate and you've got to garner. And that's what design thinking sort of materializes into.
Okay.